Hey, it's Tpok, and this is Symphonic Rain. This was a pretty old series that I did. I think I finished up Falls Route in like 2 Aprils ago, maybe. I think it was last year in April I finished playing this, and I only did one rap, which I honestly don't really know why I did that. I think it was mostly just because there's so many visual novels I want to play, and I just kind of wanted to move on to something new. So yeah. Since it has been such a long time though, I will pretty much be reading everything the same way. Like, I won't be skipping stuff we've read before, like in the intro and everything, because honestly I don't even remember it. Basically, since this is now on a new computer, I had to replay Falls Route just so I could get like her songs in the free play area, which is the Rain music and melody. Melody is hard, I must say. But yeah, basically I just skipped all the dialogue and then just played the songs through until I could get her endings. So yeah, I've got the one good ending and one bad ending of Fall. So yeah. This time around I'm gonna go for Torta. Which is this Torta? I think this might be her sister. But anyway, I also changed the difficulty to hard. Which, wow, definitely a game changer. Part of the reason it took me so long. Also, the reason why I didn't have a video yesterday was because I was playing through Falls Route, finishing it up so I could have this out today. Mostly because Leaves just was not really working too well yesterday. Yeah, I just couldn't get it to work. So I'll look into that more, but in the meantime, let's do this route. So let's start the game.
Chris, そちらは今も雨が降っていますか?
Ari always began her letters that way.
こっちは相変わらずのいい天気です。少しだけでもそっちに分けてあげたいくらいに。そんな些細な天気のことでさえ、クリスと遠く離れていることを思い出さずにはいられないなんて辛いことだよね。
Also, the first time I went through this, I just let the voice acting do its job. If you want me to read these out, just leave a comment below. Otherwise, I'm just gonna let you guys read along, or if you understand Japanese, then you can just listen.
もう3年近くこんな生活が続いたんだって最近ふと思い起こしてみました。この月が終わって年が明けてあと2ヶ月もしたらやっと戻ってこられるんだよね。そのことに気づいてから少しだけ時間が経つのが遅くなった気がします。別れてすぐも辛かったけどこういう時間もちょっと辛いかな。そしてその日が来るのが少し怖いくらい。そんなのおかしいかな。今年の終わりもいつもみたいに一緒に過ごせたらと思うけど発表のこともあるからまだどうなるかわからないよね。それに私の方もまだちょっとわからないんだ。ナターレ前の手紙くらいで細かいことを報告するからクリスもお願いします。そうそう、 卒業するために発表しないといけない演奏のパートナーがまだ決まってないってトルタからの手紙に書いてあったよ。私にはよくわからないけどすごく心配してるみたいだったから早めに決めた方がいいんじゃないかな。もう1年はさすがに待てないよ。なんだか取り留めがなくなっちゃったね。続きは次の手紙で。
So, after over a year of taking Japanese lessons, I could not understand hardly any of that. I looked away from the letter I had just finished reading and played idly with the paper in my hands. It always took a while for the lingering feelings to dissipate. After sitting still for a moment, I finally brought myself to fold up the letter. Gently slipped it back in the elegant envelope, taking care to replace it in the same condition that it arrived in. Then I placed it in the drawer where I stored all her letters. The letters from Ari were so succinct that each one took only up one sheet of paper. Even so, the drawer was almost filled to the brim with them. They were almost a physical reminder of the time that had passed by. As the white letters accumulated in the drawer, she once said, "One day, when the drawer is filled to the brim with your letters, you will come back, won't you?" So in order to keep my promise with her, I continued to send her letters on a weekly basis. I closed the drawer quietly and leaned back against the chair. I glanced at the scenery beyond the window, then at the clock to confirm the time. 6 o'clock, huh? Night was approaching rapidly. Even so, the scenery outside wouldn't change that much. The dull, overcast sky would only darken a bit more. The patter of rain on the window continued incessantly.
何が6時かよ。さっさと返事出してアンサンブルしようよ。
Forney hopped down from the windowsill to the desk, her supple wings slicing through the air gracefully. Yeah, so this is Forney. She's like this fairy that hangs around Chris. I don't really remember if it ever was explained, but I don't think it was in Falls Root. Then she stopped about 10 meters above the desk and hovered there. The wings extending from Forney's back floated rapidly, but didn't look like they were what was keeping her afloat. Everything about her was a wonder. Yeah, I know. I've always read and replied to Ari's letters like this. I was never really pressed for time to write my reply, but since she had said I'd like to read your reply as early as possible, I was just dutifully fulfilling her request. That was all there was to it. Her letters, however, took some time to arrive. If I wrote my letter now and deposited it in the post tomorrow morning, it should arrive there after 2 days. By that logic, a full exchange would span 4 days, so there was little reason to rush. However, Ari worked at a flourishing bakery in the town where we were born and raised. It was so famous that people came from afar just to sample its products. I'd heard that because she was still a trainee, she sometimes even had to forego sleep to work. Ari could read my letter as soon as it arrived on Wednesday, but since Friday afternoon was her only time off, she'd have to wait until then to compose a reply. So her letter would arrive on Sunday at noon. The post office was not open on Sundays, so I had a bit of leeway to write my reply. As she mentioned in her letter, this mail exchange cycle had persisted for almost 3 years.
全然わかってないじゃない。
Okay. After finishing the reply swiftly, I enclosed the letter in an envelope and sealed it. Afterward, I finally turned over to Forney.
やっと終わり？
Yeah.
まあ、仕方ないか。恋人への手紙ならさ。
She gave a half-resigned sigh. Then, as if her mood had lightened up, she flapped her wings vigorously. I took out the Fortelle from the case I carried it to the school and set it up in a corner.
じゃあ、はい。
Extending a hand to me, Forney made her usual request. I did as she asked and let her glide onto my palm. Then I transferred her on top of the Fortelle. Forney's wings didn't appear to be very useful. They didn't allow her to increase her altitude. As she demonstrated earlier, it seems as if she couldn't move horizontally without descending. However, when she descended, she could glide for quite a distance. Well now. I dragged a chair before the Fortelle and started tuning. Just about everybody living in this apartment building attended the same school as me. Because we understood each other's need to practice, one could play freely in the middle of the night, without worrying about disturbing one's neighbors. Shall we begin? She repeated the same sound with her wings flickered rapidly. Then Forney glanced towards me. A light pressed by my hand resting on the Fortelle. At the same time, I concentrated my mind on the sound of the first note. Magic. A power that was necessary to play this instrument. A power that in ancient times everyone was said to have to some degree. That power vanished in an instant and was replaced by an equally miraculous power which soon spread throughout the world. Electricity. The Fortelle was faint evidence that magic existed in the ages past. Yeah. I pictured the notes in my mind. And then, as I played, I pictured myself becoming one of the notes in each chord. Existing with the music. This is the intro to the game when you first start it up. That's Fall, by the way. That's who I played the first time around. So yeah. Kinda wish I was playing along with that. That is one of the pieces you can play too. So is this song. When the last note faded away, a veil of silence fell across the room. For a moment, the two of us just remained still, so still that we seemed to be holding our breaths. But the moment was quickly shattered by the patter of rain. With her eyes still closed, Forney leaned back against the music stand and sighed absently. She too had become part of her song. When we first met, Forney introduced herself as a sprite of music. I've come to know better than anyone else, that was no lie. But frankly, I don't remember that time very well. I was very busy when I first moved into this apartment. She showed up, explained she was a sprite of music who lived in this room, and that was pretty much that. Initially, I suspected that it was all just an illusion, but without a doubt, she was in fact real. However, after I had been persuaded into performing an ensemble with her, when she noticed my Fortelle, all that ceased to matter. I'd been captivated by the beauty of her voice. Even now, that hadn't changed. It was a pity that no one could see or hear her. This was the line that made me like, okay. She might not be real, but I don't know. Despite how cliché it might sound, I would describe her voice as that of an angel. I couldn't think of a more fitting description for it. As if shaking off the final reverberations, Forney opened her eyes. Like her, I returned to reality from my reverie and lifted my hands from the keyboard. It's that late already? Time flew whenever we continually practiced like this. It was probably because I concentrated so much on playing that I felt exhausted every time I snapped back into reality. And that was why I didn't rehearse with Forney every day. It was our agreement to do so only on Sundays. Once I'd replied to Ari's letter, Forney would exclaim, as she did earlier, "Let's perform our ensemble." Tegami, letter, and kaban is bag, but I don't know if I heard that. Yes, I know. Even though she had a tiny frame and a childlike voice, Forney was always reminding me about the things I needed to do. I couldn't say it suited her appearance, but she looked kind of cute doing it, so I didn't mind her telling me what to do. This might also be because she reminded me of Ari's younger sister, my other childhood friend, Torda. Oyasumi. Good night. I know that one. Yeah, good night. I had long become accustomed to Forney's way of vanishing like that. Her existence certainly was a wonder, but deep down inside I had probably always harbored a desire to accept her presence. Thanks to her, and all the time I'd been here, I'd never been affected by loneliness, or the alienation of living in a land I felt I didn't belong to. Good night. The sound of streaming water. The sound of rain flowing through a zinc gutter. The few rays of light that managed to pass through thin clouds made for poor illumination. I started to get up and turn on the light, but when I noticed the presence beside my pillow, I stopped in surprise.
Ohayo.
Good morning. Are there sleeping faces that don't? Having apparently lost interest already, she gave me a satisfied look and flapped her wings a few times. I picked her up and brought her to her favorite spot in front of the window. She sat down and started to swing her legs around playfully. What time is it now?
なんかいたずらでもしてあげようと思ったんだけど、じゃあね。
I reached for the alarm clock on my desk and canceled the alarm. Perhaps I'd grown accustomed to Forney's rash ways of waking me, since nowadays I seemed to be waking up naturally, even before my alarm went off. Well, yeah, 9 o'clock is pretty late. Sorry for random motorcycle. I have to wake up at 6 every day. Then again, since my sleeping hours were pretty regular, setting my alarm was just a precaution. Okay, I suppose I'll get changed.
そうそう、手紙忘れないようにね。
I put it in my bag yesterday. Forney nodded approvingly and gazed at the rain outside, signaling at the end of that conversation.
何？今日も雨？
As usual.
いい天気ね。
As usual. Yeah, it always rains in this town. I quickly got changed and headed for the front door. Didn't usually eat breakfast, and Forney didn't eat at all. So all I had to do before I left was wash my face and change my clothes. As I opened the door, the first thing to reach my ears was the sound of rain pattering on the pavement. Though it wasn't a loud sound by any means, it was a constant irritation to my ears. Like earwax that couldn't be cleaned out. The City of Rain. It was hard not to be reminded of that name when you arrived here for the first time. There had been a time when the town was actually called the City of Rain, and even the town's current name, Piova, originated from it. However, nowadays the town is known as the City of Music. The residents of the town all acknowledge this, and seem to take pride in it. I stepped underneath the eaves of the store along the street. These eaves were created long ago to provide people shelter from the rain. I shook my head lightly and brushed the droplets off my clothes. I could do that casually, which was a sign of just how accustomed I had become to living in this town. Perhaps the residents too had become a little too used to the rain falling year-round, since no one usually carried an umbrella. It could be a week before I could hold Ari's neck. It wouldn't be a week before I could hold Ari's next letter. In my mind, I unconsciously pictured the way that I would spend the week, waiting for her letter. This time I had grown all too accustomed to. This town that I had grown all too accustomed to. This was just like any other week, but I couldn't shake off this lingering uneasy feeling. Like this town wasn't really my place to be. A strange feeling. I sometimes got the silly thought that if I didn't have Forney, Torda, and the letters from Ari, time itself might just stop moving. Suddenly, Stranger's voice brought me back to my reverie. I turn around. Oh, right, excuse me. After giving me a light bow, the man inserted his letter into the mailbox and left. How long had I been lost in thought? Torda and Forney often told me this, but it appeared I really did have a bad habit of suddenly slipping into deep thought. Would it be bad if I caught a cold because I let myself get drenched? I decided to stop thinking about it, and began walking leisurely in the direction of the school. I finally arrived at the campus. It was a little past 10. Since I still had 20 minutes before my private lesson would begin, I took my time strolling toward the main building. Students whose classes start at this time are rare, but they do exist. You wouldn't see any freshmen or juniors, since their classes begin early in the morning, but most of the senior year course load is private lessons, which generally begin later in the day. There was the option to have the private lessons in the morning, but since most students preferred doing it in the afternoon, it wasn't very crowded at this time of day. If I chose to have my lesson during second period, which starts at 10:30, getting up in the morning wouldn't be all that painful. Combined with the fact that I didn't really like crowds, I chose to have my lessons during second period. On foot, it took several minutes to cross the hallways lined with lecture halls and arrive at the private classrooms. As expected from a prominent musical institute competing on a national level, it was quite big. I headed for my designated classroom while inhaling the fresh and slightly damp morning air. Since language classes, harmonics classes, and for freshmen, general education classes were all taught here, there were many people present in this area. However, it was silent here because all the rooms were soundproof. But then, in the afternoon, you could still hear the rustle of people in spite of that. But I liked the atmosphere here in the morning. The compressed air in the hallway muffled the sound of the rain, but I could still feel it in my bones. Excuse my interruption. Sorry. I've been sitting on my feet, and it's not the most comfortable. I had arrived at over 15 minutes before the appointed time of 10:30, so Miss Cordell wasn't here yet. She generally arrived here 10 minutes early, but today I happened to be even earlier. Well, now. I pulled out a chair and took my Fortelle out of its case. There was another Fortelle in the room, but my own instrument still felt like the best one for me. Concentrating on my fingers, I played a few notes. After playing like this for a few minutes, I heard the door open behind me.
Ohayo.
Good morning, madam. I turned around and returned her greeting.
Kamawanai. Suzukero.
Actually, I am done now.
そうか。ならいい。まだ時間は少し早いな。
Miss Cordell glanced at the clock and then she turned toward me for confirmation. Well, yes.
少し話がある。見当はついているな。
About my partner, right?
ああ。当てがないわけじゃないだろう。
Well, sure, but...
合わせる時間も必要だから、もうそんなに時間はない。
It's still a few months away.
2ヶ月しかないんだ。数ヶ月とは普通言わない。
So that's how long I have left.
そういうことに疎いのは知ってたが、それほどとはな。
Since you know how out of touch I am, how about avoiding that topic?
これも仕事だからな。それで探してはいるのか。
Well, yeah.
嘘だな。
It was just like Miss Cordell to make such instant declarations. Why do you think that?
君のことは多少なりとも分かってるつもりだ。
Then why are you asking?
なんだ、図星か。
She gave a weak smile as her hand combed through her hair. I liked those gestures that Miss Cordell made every now and then. When it came to music, she was very strict and showed no mercy to her students, but that wasn't the only side to her. Although it seemed most students couldn't see past her image of being a strict lecturer. In fact, I used to be like that as well, until I started taking these private lessons. Yeah, bullseye.
まあ、君の音に合わせられるものもあまりにないか。妥協も良くない。
Yeah, that's part of the reason. I kept pretending with a weak smile. Sometimes I felt that she was overestimating my abilities. Among all the lecturers in the school, Miss Cordell in particular held my skills in the highest regard. But I personally didn't really feel that way. The Fortelle was an instrument that required magic, and the player had considerable control over its timbre. It was not like a piano or cymbalo, where you could produce single notes just by pressing one of its keys. Of course, it made different sounds by pressing it harder or by the way you used the pedals, but this was not how a Fortelle differed between individual players. You could say the variance of the sound itself was relatively similar to a wind instrument. However, it appeared to be most similar to a human voice. As it turned out, Miss Cordell thought very highly of the sound I produced. It had a lot to do with how the sound was perceived by others. The performer had no way to tell by himself. It was like being told that something you found normal was actually something very unique.
クリス、聞いていなかったな。
Yeah, well, no.
素直でよろしい。ただ、 授業中に私の話を聞かないのは減点だ。
Sorry.
まあいい。それは後にしてレッスンを始めるとしよ
う。Understood. I took the score out of my bag and placed it in the music stand. I'm actually gonna save it here in case I absolutely fail. Pretty much to fail. Well, I'll explain it a bit. Miss Cordell scanned the score over my shoulder.
曲はいつものでいいのか?
Yes, I know the piece depends on my partner, but this is the only one I have right now.
まあいい。とりあえず初めから通しで。それでは。
Oh, I cut her off. But basically I have to get at least 4 or 5 stars on my little evaluation bar to pass. And yeah, I got it. It's like Guitar Hero-esque, this song. So there we go. There were no vocals on that. But yeah, I got 5 stars, so I automatically pass. If I get below 4 stars, it'll give me the option to retry. Yeah, sorry I'm quiet. I was quiet during that. Basically, I just go full on concentration mode for those, and I'm really bad at them. Hence me concentrating so hard. But in the future, I'm going to cut out all of the songs. I just want to show every song one time. So the first time I'm going to play a song, I will show that song. So for Torta, whenever we learn her piece, I'm gonna show you guys that piece throughout, and I will also show the final performance just as a thing to wrap up. So yeah, I'm actually gonna end this episode here. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.